Just TW Wrestling Talk. Coming off, well, a lot going on in the wrestling world with WWE. Specifically, this episode is going to talk about not only this past week's Raw, but also a little bit of the Raw house show that I saw on Saturday. Just to kind of tie things in here. I want to say that I think the timing of me, the timing of this house show, that I just saw this past Saturday, I think is actually a very interesting time to go there. For one thing, since the last house show I've seen here in my my area, I haven't come around too often. The roster has dramatically changed in the way they've split the guys up. This house show that I went to see, it only really featured CM Punk and Ryback, and I guess Team Hell No if you want to throw them in there. That was it. There was no John Cena. I guess due to him still recovering, which a lot of fans weren't happy about. But this house show, I can tell you, was sort of built around Ryback, and there's ways that they've been building around Ryback, in Raw in recent weeks. Going back to them making him, be the one that's going to face CM Punk at Hell in a Cell. But this house show, like I said, the timing is, it's such an interesting time to have gone to a house show, because it's just about a week short of this new baby face that WWE is building up in the main event, which they really, at least as far as on Raw goes, there hasn't really been any big new baby face in recent months this year that they've been building up to face the WWE champion. Especially as a baby face. Now, sure, Daniel Bryan, he's had a few shots, he's had a couple shots. Kane, those guys, though, have already been world champion. Obviously, Kane has been around for years. Daniel Bryan, he already had a reign of, as world heavyweight champion. But Ryback is this new guy, this new, since April, who's been tearing through, a bunch of jobbers, but in recent past couple months, some mid-carders, and it's been a surprise to many how, suddenly he's gonna face the WWE champion CM Punk, who's been champion for nearly 340 days now, in the main event for the WWE Championship. And I want to bring this, some irony in this all is that the past two pay-per-views, Night of Champions and SummerSlam, Ryback did not have a match on, which I find very, the last pay-per-view, I believe he was involved with, as far as having a match goes, was Money in the Bank back in July. So and now here he is main eventing against CM Punk, with what not only is it a new a big opportunity for Ryback. Some are a little shaky about it, given that they feel he's been rushed to the top, and even I have a little bit of questioning, but this is a new big face that people are really starting to get behind, against what has become a monster heel champion and CM Punk, and I mean, and the circumstances of this match. I mean, it's a Hell in a Cell match. It's not just a regular, you know, one fall match. So that throws an interesting pitch on it. Ryback's first main event is going to be a Hell in a Cell for the WWE Championship. Quite interesting. Big jump, obviously. But we've seen him plow through guys like The Miz, who was Intercontinental Champion. And, it only makes sense at this point that if they're going to have him plow through someone like The Miz like that, a former WWE Champion, it only makes, it's fitting now that, yeah, he's in the main event picture. He has this winning streak going, which throws an and then CM Punk has this long reign going, which, I think most people have believed is, may last until, the Royal Rumble, that he could face The Rock. And of course there's been some speculation that perhaps maybe he'd lose it, and then gain it back in time for the Royal Rumble. But with the direction they seem to be going, and as time passes on, I mean, we're almost in November. As time passes on, that is starting to seem less likely that CM Punk will lose it. Before the Royal Rumble. So this whole match has an interesting dynamic surrounding it. And before I talk about that, I want to kind of talk about how it came to be that Ryback was going to face CM Punk. I'm about to talk about John Cena, so name's kind of creeping in there. But last week on Raw, they had, of course they had the big contract signing where, everyone was wondering, Cena or Ryback was going to face CM Punk because Vince McMahon was making that decision. And throughout the night, I mean, John Cena was hinting that, he wants to face CM Punk no matter what. He doesn't, that's been part of his character. Cena doesn't care if his arm is banged up, if it's not 100%. And throughout the night, you figured, well, Cena wants this title match. That's been a part of his character, and it's supposed to mean a whole lot to him. The WWE Championship, that title, which he brought into play several years ago. Unfortunately, because I liked the belt before that, but it was a shock to me how they made I mean, I'm not complaining about it. I definitely don't mind seeing Ryback in the main event, a new babyface that they're trying to push and get, and keep up in the main event picture for, years to come. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it may, if they execute well, it definitely will be a move that was worth it. But the whole mechanics behind it, I didn't quite understand. I didn't get it, and I'm not the only one. From listening and talking with other people, but they had Cena play it up as if, well, I want to face CM Punk. It's the bottom line. But then it just kind of seemed like he gave his title shot up to Ryback just by default. I didn't totally get it. They could have done something different. That's my point. That would have been a little less confusing and just seemed to make more sense, because Cena is a guy, given everything that Cena was saying And then, given how he kind of just gave this match to Ryback, as if he like changed his mind within seconds while he was out there, I didn't totally get that. I mean, maybe they could have just had Vince say, "Well, Cena, you're not 100%. Now I want to protect you. You know, etc." And you know, Cena being, you know, the guy he, you know, who he is, he could have said, I understand, Vince, and you know what, they could have had Cena have like the same mentality that he had, you know, he just wanted to see CM Punk get his ass whipped, as he was saying, but they could have maybe done it in a way that Cena wasn't just giving over his title shot, because that didn't totally make sense to me. And it came off confusing. But anyhow, that's what they decided, and it's interesting. Certainly, just they're gonna have, you know, Ryback, this new guy that they've been trying to push. They're gonna have him in the main event. That's the bottom line. And before I get into more of that, I want to talk other things. They are WWE with this tag team division. You know, they are strengthening the mid card. They're expanding it. If you think about it, it seems like they're slowly reintroducing stables. Something that's been pretty absent over the past few years. I mean, the last, you know, big stable was Nexus and the Core. And, you know, since then they've really been letting up in the stables, but, you know, Team Hell No in its own right is a stable, and these tag teams, you know, there's some that they've paired together that they just kind of threw two guys together, but they have a lot of, like, new, you know, potential stables that they're, you know, even with guys like Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal, or, you know, it's interesting what they're doing with the whole tag team division, and as a result, to me, it seems like they're expanding the mid card, which is a good thing. Instead of having a bunch of, you know, instead of having, you know, low carders and jobbers, and then some mid carders, and then your main eventers, it seems like they've been taking a lot of the low card guys as of late, not just with tag teams in general, and it seems like they're trying to move them into the mid card and have a stronger mid card instead of these guys that just lose all the time or just don't do much. I think it's interesting what they're doing. For example, we saw evidence of this this past Monday on Raw. We had Antonio Cesaro, the United States champion, against Justin Gabriel, who, you know, myself included, I'm sure a lot of us thought, you know, Cesaro, this is probably going to be like a squash match. You know, Cesaro's going to look stronger. You know, we had him like take an upset loss to Justin Gabriel. And, you know, given that he's, you know, Cesaro's the United States champion, you know, in rather short, you know, quickly in his career he became that. Him losing to someone like Gabriel, I don't think it's going to make him take a big hit. Because Cesaro himself still is developing to do. He still has some growth to possibly, you know, we'll see how far he goes, but you know, this is just an example of, oh, you know, Gabriel, maybe he's not a jobber, you know, maybe this guy can be a mid-carder, and, you know, maybe we'll see him, you know, a little more on a consistent basis, because the more guys that they have, you know, in the mid-card, it seems like the more possibilities WWE gives himself to, you know, move those guys, some of those guys up in the main event, which they've been in need of doing, certainly. Guys like Dolph Ziggler, perfect example. He was in the mid card. He's been in the mid card for a while, and they've been taking strides to move him up. And it's, almost certain that he'll be world champion in the near future, in the coming months. Again, this is another example. If you have less jobbers, if you can move them into the mid card, and have a bigger mid card, that's great, because it makes the tag team division interesting when you have all these tag teams, and certainly the United States Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, is interesting as well. More interesting when you do this. I criticize the Cody Rhodes reign, the long reign that he had. It seemed like, he was this mid-carder with the Intercontinental Championship and SmackDown, and it just didn't seem like he really ever had this good competition. It just seemed like, at the time, the mid-card was pretty slim pickings there, and I think if there was anyone else in the mid-card, they were above Cody Rhodes, in my opinion. So, but now, you see a definite change. You see, different guys, that could really cycle in the mid-card and make things interesting. And you could see different guys that could possibly, elevate themselves up now, from the mid-card. I mean, I'm not saying, Justin Gabriel is, one of the next big things. I'm not saying that, but that win might say something. That win could mean a lot, because he could now be a part of the mid card. If the fans get really behind him, he could, before you know it, he could perhaps, I'm not saying he will be, he could perhaps be the next United States champion, or one in the near future. And if people continue to like him, who knows? He could end up being in the main event picture. So it's just these little things WWE's doing with some guys who they haven't been using too much, and perhaps elevating them, which is always is a good thing in my book. As long as they, the gimmick isn't too corny, or whatever you want to call it. But I thought that was an interesting thing to take note on. And again, all these tag teams, it helps make a bigger mid card with the tag team titles, and which at a time seemed like it was kind of just a tag, a low card, pair of titles, which every now and then went to, bigger names, but now it seems like it could continue to work through mid-carders. Obviously, Kane and Daniel Bryan aren't, mid-carders for life. I mean, there's enough to be said about them, but it seems they seem like good people to lead the charge here. So, it works to have them as tag team champions, as always. And on top of, speaking of, other mid-card, what's going on lately, the Intercontinental Championship, surprisingly, went to Kofi Kingston, at main event, on main event, whatever you want to call it. On main event, which I didn't see. I mean, I don't have Ion television. I don't. If now they gave the title to Kofi Kingston on main event. That was the main event there. The Intercontinental Championship match, which Kofi Kingston won. They changed the titles on, I guess this new program that they're trying to develop, which, until now, I'm still not totally sure about, if I should start looking it up on YouTube, just because I feel like I'm under the impression that this is like another Superstars, or, just kind of filler show that's, it's not very cohesive with, up to speed with what's going on Raw or SmackDown. But, I mean, they had a significant match, which, made the Intercontinental Championship change hands. So, perhaps I'll have to give it a little more of a chance. Personally, I watch Raw every week, and I try to watch. I make a good effort to watch every SmackDown. Every now and then I miss, I mean, I'm never really even home on Friday night, so I think like the past 20 SmackDowns, I think perhaps 19 or 18 of them I've looked up on YouTube and watched them from there. It's just the way my schedule is, but that's how it is. I don't really Superstars, NXT. I haven't really tuned into them really at all. That's just how it goes. If there's significant stuff going on a consistent basis, then I will. But such as this Intercontinental Championship reign or match that happened. And I'm also surprised because maybe I should have watched it, because I would have thought when Miz got the Intercontinental Championship, I figured he was going to have a decent reign with it, maybe 6 months, something like that. But no, if I'm not mistaken, now he's only had it for what, 2 months, I think, and already he's lost it to Kofi Kingston, who, by the way, Kofi Kingston, interesting. Last week on Raw, they had an interesting encounter between him and Miz. Miz TV, and then of course they had this, they had the match with the famous Trouble in Paradise kick. And I mean, kick. All this WWE is fake crap really did not apply to this Trouble in Paradise kick. You look at the replay, however many times you want, that was a clear shot that Miz took from Kofi Kingston. You could hear it, you could see it. Watching it live last week on Raw, I knew that was, oh my god, that connected. That looked like real painful there, and not totally kayfabe. Gives it, you gotta give that a lot of credit. Perhaps it wasn't meant to look that painful or be that painful. That's what happened, and Miz got knocked in the next week, it appeared, and that's a great example of one of those moments where call WWE scripted, not fake, because stuff like that happened at times, and it really makes those fake arguments go out the window. You really got to look at something like that and say, well, that was a hard shot. If it's fake, then how about you try and take something like that? See how you take it. But anyways, that was interesting, and I think past few weeks, Kofi and R-Truth, it doesn't seem like they're really together anymore. Kofi is Intercontinental Champion once again, and it makes it a little interesting. I thought Miz was going to hold on to it for several months. Turned out he lost it to Kofi Kingston, and here we are. We have a new Intercontinental Champion, and it seems to be an interesting feud here. They're going to have a rematch at Hell in a Cell, so we'll see how that goes. They're going to have a good match. And yeah, I think Kofi deserves it though. He's doing a good job. So props to Kofi for that, and props to Miz for taking that hellacious kick last week on Raw.